Okay, so hello again, everyone. My name is David from INN, and joining me now is
David Haddock, lead writer.
So, can you start by just telling us a little bit about what you do as lead writer?
It's complicated. It's kind of interfacing with a lot of different factions within the company. I mean, we spend a lot of time with design, sort of talking out gameplay levels and missions, and talk with art or work with art if they want to build a ship. Right. We'll kind of help talk out stuff. I mean, generally, mostly what we do is we do a lot of, the script writing. Obviously, talk a lot with Chris about narrative stuff, and Squadron 42 has been sort of the big thing for a while. But also, we handle a lot of the PU stuff, so fleshing out the universe. And then there's the website stuff, so helping with curate content and do a little generate the news stories. Yeah. Used to do the serials back in the day, so sort of a handful of things.
So I want to start with kind of the Roman Empire parallels that Squadron 42 has. Like, we've heard that there's that kind of a Roman Empire parallel. What other inspirations have you drawn from for Squadron 42 and for just the PU in general?
It kind of comes from all over the place. I mean, there's some very weird, because part of it too is the idea that we don't want to. I mean, with the Roman Empire connection, it was mostly a launching place. So, okay. When tackling something this big, it's easy to kind of start with like, all right, so what's the type of feeling that you're going for? And so when I first started talking with Chris about it, it was just sort of kind of picking his brain to see like what kind of tone overall. And so that was the one that he sort of circled onto, was the sort of beginning of the end of the Roman Empire. But since then, I mean, it's influences can kind of come from anywhere. I was really happy because I managed to work in a Miller's Crossing reference into something, which is a old Coen Brothers movie about gangsters. So nice. It can kind of come from anywhere, which is kind of the fun thing. Yeah. I mean, as long as it's not too on the nose, it can be, you can kind of draw inspiration from a lot of different places. Because also that's the idea, is we want it to feel so open, and that the universe has a capacity for a bunch of different types of stories, that we don't want to make it feel too narrow. So. So yeah, making sure that we have a lot of grays. Okay, so how much of the stuff that you like, how much of the stuff that other people work on do you see, and then how much of the stuff that you work on goes through Chris? Like what? I mean, I run almost everything through Chris. I mean, he's somehow manages to stay on top of all of this stuff, which is incredible. But because it's Chris's game, and I do my best to, try to anticipate what type of things he likes and what he's sort of liked in the past. Right. But I always, I like to put stuff in front of Chris, because he always, he has feedback and he has reactions and stuff like that. And so I like to keep him apprised of, so we're not sort of off in our own little corner, right, doing weird things. So. I like to run stuff, but I mean, as far as the other departments and stuff like that, like we usually, I mean, if it's gameplay stuff, just because we're so forward facing, our website gets a lot of scrutiny, which may be a shock. Really? Yeah. But so what we say, even in fictional contexts, oftentimes can be interpreted as as I was reading on the comments for the last week's post, like space cookies confirmed, so we tend to be careful. So if it's stuff that could conceively be a game mechanic, we always try to run it by design to be like, okay, is this feasible? Right. And with a lot of times it might be stuff that they haven't thought about yet, but like so we try to be respectful and not paint them in a corner where we feel like we're kind of making choices for them. So it's very much a give and take, and it's a lot of collaboration, on a lot of stuff. I mean, in design, we have all of our news updates get forwarded to a designer just to kind of take a look at it.
Okay.
Just because again, we just want to make sure that everyone sort of understands where the universe is going, and we're all sort of on the same page, narratively and tonally.
Right.
So.
Now I know, kind of on the topic of the universe building, you used to do the lore builders.
Yes.
I had something in one of those, which was great. Like from the fans, I mean, any of us that submitted something, seeing something that we thought of be part of the game eventually is great. Is that something you guys are going to be starting again at some point, or?
I think so. I mean, it's always been sort of a fun thing to fall back on. Usually it's the weird thing about it is that it takes a lot of time to do, because
reading through
the comments. I mean, having topics that are sort of interesting enough to spark debates mean that the debates or the conversations are going to be long. So we were averaging a couple hundred comments per post. So especially if we were talking something like the Sadaball thing or what ultimately became OES, it was a lot of back and forth.
Right.
So you want to read everything to see if people have interesting points of view that were contradictory points, or bring up reasons why that won't work and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of time. I mean, I think we'll probably go back to it. I mean, it's always been so beneficial and so much fun, at the end of the day, despite all the reading. We've utilized a lot of this stuff too, like, the liquors, the brands of liquor we did, the outlaw packs, the celebrities. Like we've started incorporating them into the fiction. So hopefully we'll bring it back soon. It's just about what kind of topics would be interesting, because that's the other tricky thing, is trying to pick something that people don't need to read internal design docs.
Right.
To be able to contribute to, because that would seem tricky, like posting something and then being like, oh, well, sorry, turns out none of the things you suggest we can use because of X factor that we couldn't talk about. So trying to find that sweet spot of a topic that's means something. But
so where then are you guys right now in writing? Like, I assume Squadron 42, the story of that is pretty complete-ish, script-wise and everything. I mean, all of the shooting for it's done, right? So
the main performance capture shoot is done. There's still a lot to be written on it. So that was what we were doing mainly with sort of our larger cast. Okay. So a lot of the more broad story stuff we've shot. There was specific stuff that we'll need to. I don't know if necessarily it'll be performance capture, but we have a good amount still to.
Okay, and then that's for Squadron 42. Have you started it all on, like, what kind of a base do you have for stuff that you need to write for the persistent universe? What, if any? Very
early on. I mean, there's a lot of that is still just kind of figuring out the systems, how are missions going to be distributed, how's the economy going to work, that type of stuff. So we've had very kind of abstract, larger scale conversations about it. The focus of the past since the new year was Squadron 42. So getting those scripts, written was the big push. So Persistent Universe during that time was sort of secondary. We still had needs that they would ask us about and require stuff for, but like social module and all that type of stuff. So we were still working on it, but it was not. Squadron 42 was sort of the immediate priority because we had a shoot date.
Yeah, it had to be done, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much of the stuff that you write kind of affects like the other sides of development? Like, how much of what you write affects design or visual implementation? How much of what they do affects what you write?
I mean, I don't know. I hope that we do stuff that helps inspire them. But I don't know. You'd have to ask them. They inspire. I mean, obviously, we draw a lot from everybody else's work. The art and the design and stuff like that is hugely inspirational because it's how it's going to be, and we want to best reflect that in the fiction and stuff like that. So
I guess we're getting some new people. So one last question just before you go. The community is hugely involved in Star Citizen and everything. What can the community do to help you guys?
Stay awesome.
Simple enough. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.